The wine didn't spill by accident. It was poured slowly, deliberately, like a verdict delivered in liquid form. The laughter came first, sharp and approving, followed by the familiar hum of phones lifting to capture the moment. In a room built on privilege and spectacle, humiliation was entertainment. Yet the woman at the center of it didn't react the way they expected. She didn't gasp. She didn't flinch. She didn't wipe the wine from her skin. She simply looked up, eyes steady, as if she were watching a clock tick toward something inevitable. The Aurora Grand Auction was not about charity, no matter what the brochures promised. It was about power dressing itself as generosity. Crystal chandeliers burned overhead, scattering light across silk gowns and tailored suits. Every table announced wealth before a single word was spoken. Every smile hid a calculation. This was where donors competed not to give, but to be seen giving. And tonight, the room believed it had found someone to erase for sport. Nyla Carter entered alone. No entourage, no announcement, just a quiet presence that didn't ask permission. She wore a simple ivory dress, elegant without effort, hair pulled back with precision. Her posture carried something that didn't belong to this room's hierarchy. Certainty. She paused at the edge of the ballroom, scanning faces, absorbing tone, listening more than looking. She understood rooms like this. She'd learned long ago that arrogance always revealed itself quickly when it thought no one important was watching. She moved toward the front, where the most expensive tables circled the stage like a throne room. A security guard stepped into her path, palm raised. General seating is toward the back. His voice wasn't hostile. It was dismissive, practiced. Nyla met his eyes calmly. I'm seated at the front. He smirked, already entertained. VIP donors only. She nodded once. Correct. He laughed, waved her aside, and turned his attention elsewhere. Assumptions had already decided her worth. That was when Eliza Moreau noticed her. Eliza had built a reputation on cruelty disguised as charm. She was the face of half the room's donations and knew exactly how much influence that bought her. She leaned back in her chair, glass of wine balanced loosely in her fingers, eyes tracking Nyla with open disdain. Excuse me, Eliza said loudly, rising just enough to command attention. This section is reserved. You're in the wrong place. A ripple of laughter followed, soft but eager. Nyla stopped, turned. No, I'm not, she said evenly. Eliza's smile sharpened. Security, she called, savoring the word. We have a confused guest. Phones angled subtly. The room leaned in. This was the moment they'd been waiting for. The erasure. An attendant hurried over, flustered, clutching a stack of place cards. He glanced at Nyla, then at Eliza, then froze. He checked again. Miss Carter, he said quietly, pointing to a seat beside Eliza's. Your place is here. A flicker of irritation crossed Eliza's face, quickly masked. Then someone made a mistake, she muttered. People like her don't sit next to me. The auction began, the rhythm of bids filling the air. Nyla lifted her paddle once, then again, each bid calm, precise, unchallenged. Murmurs spread as numbers climbed faster than expected. Eliza's jaw tightened as Nyla doubled a bid without hesitation, her voice never rising. The room didn't like that. Control was slipping, and it showed. Eliza stood abruptly. She reached for the bottle at her table, a vintage praised more for its price than its taste. She stepped closer to Nyla, smile wide, eyes cold. Careful, she said, mock concern dripping from every syllable. You're going to embarrass yourself. Then she tipped the bottle. The wine cascaded down Nyla's shoulder, staining fabric, dripping onto the polished floor. Gasps turned into laughter. Someone clapped. Cameras flashed openly now. Eliza laughed loudest of all. Oops, she said. These things happen. Security moved in, ready to escort the spectacle out before it lost momentum. Nyla didn't move. She didn't look at the wine. She looked past Eliza toward the stage. Slowly, she set her handbag on the table. The room quieted, confused by the absence of tears, of rage, of submission. Before anyone touches me, Nyla said, voice low but carrying, you should confirm who funds this auction. Eliza rolled her eyes. Here we go, she scoffed. Another fantasy. But the auctioneer hesitated. Something in Nyla's tone cut through the noise. He glanced at his assistant, who had already pulled up the sponsor ledger, curiosity outweighing protocol. Her fingers stilled, her face drained of color. She leaned toward the auctioneer, whispering urgently, then handed him the tablet with shaking hands. He swallowed hard, tapped the microphone, and the room held its breath without realizing why. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice strained, "we need to pause." Silence fell, heavy and unfamiliar. "There appears to be a misunderstanding," he continued. "Ms. Nyla Carter is not a guest. She is the principal benefactor and legal trustee of the Aurora Foundation." The words landed like a dropped chandelier. Eliza laughed once, sharp and brittle. "That's impossible," she said. "I've been the face of this event for years." Nyla finally turned to her, eyes steady. "Faces are temporary," she replied. "Ownership is not." The assistant continued reading, voice trembling. "Ms. Carter's contributions account for the majority of this foundation's operating budget, including tonight's event." Security stepped back instinctively. Eliza's confidence cracked, panic flashing through the gaps. "This is a mistake," she insisted. "She tricked you." Nyla stood. Chairs scraped back across the room as if pulled by gravity. "You poured wine on the person who keeps this foundation alive," she said calmly. "You humiliated the woman protecting the causes you use as accessories." Her gaze swept the room, lingering on the phone still recording. "And you did it because you assumed power looks like you." The room didn't laugh now. It listened. Nyla reached into her bag and withdrew a folder. "I was waiting for the right moment," she said softly. "You provided it." She placed the documents on the table. "Effective immediately, the board is suspended pending investigation." Eliza's breath hitched. "You can't." Nyla met her eyes. "I can," she said. "And I will." She turned toward the cameras. "Stream this," she instructed. "Every word." The auctioneer obeyed, hands shaking. Nyla faced the room once more, voice unwavering. "This organization will no longer be a playground for cruelty disguised as charity." Her eyes returned to Eliza. "Security," she said evenly. "Escort Miss Moreau out." Eliza screamed as hands closed around her arm, the sound slicing through the stunned silence. Nyla didn't watch. She picked up her paddle again and sat back down. "Proceed," she said, and this time no one questioned whether she belonged. They were too busy realizing who had owned the room all along. The doors closed behind Eliza with a sound that echoed louder than the screams she left behind. For a moment, no one moved. The chandeliers still burned overhead, the cameras were still live, and the auctioneer stood frozen with his hands hovering over the podium. The room had crossed a line it couldn't uncross. Humiliation had turned into exposure, and exposure had turned into fear. Nyla remained seated, spine straight, hands folded lightly on the table. The wine continued to drip from her shoulder onto the white tablecloth, a slow reminder of what the room had just witnessed. No one offered a napkin. No one dared. Power had shifted, and they could feel it recalibrating in real time. This wasn't anger radiating from her, it was control, colder and far more dangerous. "Continue," Nyla said again, not raising her voice. The auctioneer blinked, swallowed, and nodded. His microphone trembled as he announced the next item. Bidding resumed, but the rhythm was broken. Every paddle lift now felt like a test. Every breath felt supervised. People weren't bidding for art anymore. They were bidding for survival. At the neighboring tables, whispers turned into frantic calculations. Who had laughed? Who had filmed? Who had applauded? Who had stayed silent? Phones buzzed discreetly under tables as messages flew to lawyers, assistants, board members. Damage control had begun, but it was already too late. Nyla didn't need to threaten anyone. The room was doing the work for her. Halfway through the next item, a man in a tailored tuxedo rose unsteadily from his seat near the aisle. He was one of the Foundation's senior advisors, a fixture at every gala for the last decade. "Ms. Carter," he began, voice thin, "perhaps we should speak privately." Nyla turned her head slowly, just enough to acknowledge him. "No," she replied. "There's been enough privacy tonight." A ripple of unease spread. She stood again, and this time the silence was immediate. "For those wondering what happens next," she said calmly, "here's the truth. This foundation has been audited for 18 months, quietly, thoroughly. I wanted to believe leadership would correct itself. Her eyes moved across the crowd. Instead, I was given a demonstration. She gestured toward the wine-stained fabric. This, she said, was helpful. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Nyla continued. Every donor, board member and executive affiliated with discriminatory conduct or financial misuse will be publicly reviewed. Tonight was not an outburst. It was a trigger. Someone near the back dropped their phone. The sound was sharp in the stillness. Cameras captured everything. Nyla didn't rush. She let the weight settle. Then she added, "If you are clean, you have nothing to fear. If you are not, you should leave now." No one moved. Security guards, once eager to remove her, now stood rigid along the walls, eyes forward, awaiting her direction. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "Ms. Carter," he said carefully, "do you wish to address the donors directly?" Nyla nodded. "I do." She stepped onto the stage, heels steady against the polished floor. The lights followed her automatically. From this angle, she could see every face clearly. The nervous smiles, the hollow confidence, the dawning realization that money had failed them tonight. "I built this foundation because I believed art, education, and opportunity should outlive ego," she said. "Some of you treated it like a costume party for power." Her gaze sharpened. "That ends now." She paused, letting the cameras drink it in. "Leadership will be restructured by morning. Funds misappropriated will be recovered. And anyone who believes philanthropy excuses cruelty will find themselves locked out permanently." A woman near the front raised a trembling hand. "Miss Carter," she said, voice cracking, "we didn't know." Nyla looked at her evenly. "You didn't ask," she replied. The woman lowered her hand, eyes wet, exposed by the simplicity of the truth. Outside the ballroom, reporters had already gathered. Alerts flashed across financial networks. The Aurora Foundation's live stream exploded in viewership. Clips of the wine being poured, Nyla's stillness, the announcement of ownership, all of it spread faster than any apology could catch up. Commentators called it a reckoning. Analysts called it unprecedented. Social media called it overdue. Back inside, donors quietly collected their belongings. Some slipped out with heads down. Others stayed rooted to their chairs, paralyzed by the understanding that their silence had just been documented. Nyla watched them without expression. She wasn't interested in chasing anyone. Consequences would arrive on their own schedule. When the final item was auctioned, Nyla raised her paddle once more. The room held its breath. No one dared outbid her. The gavel fell. Applause started hesitantly, then stopped, unsure if it was allowed. Nyla nodded once to the auctioneer and stepped down from the stage. An assistant approached her with a tablet. "The press is asking for a statement," he whispered. Nyla glanced at the screen, then shook her head. "They already have one." She looked back toward the ballroom, now stripped of its earlier arrogance. Silence speaks louder. She walked toward the exit, the cameras parting instinctively. No one blocked her path. No one challenged her authority. Outside, the night air was cool, grounding. Her car door opened before she reached it. As she settled inside, her phone buzzed once. A message from the Foundation's legal team, board compliance confirmed, actions initiated. Nyla leaned back, closing her eyes briefly. Not from exhaustion, from completion. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. The kind that didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't beg to be understood. It simply acted and let the collapse explain itself. By morning, headlines would frame it as scandal. By next week, as reform. In a year, as a case study. But for Nyla, it was something simpler. A reminder delivered to a room that had forgotten it. Respect is not a reward, it is the minimum. And tonight, the room learned that lesson the hard way.